Hi there, welcome to Lanaya Garcia's IEP meeting. My name is Savannah Mitchell. I am the special education teacher. We are here for Lanaya's annual IEP review. I'm going to start with introductions. The people present at this IEP meeting are as follows: special education teacher Savannah Mitchell, special education interventionist Joan Hinecki, general education teacher Allison Houston, EL specialist Sandra Landvik, social worker Brian Peterson, parent Lionel Garcia, and district special education liaison Stacy O'Brien. I'm going to go over some expectations just so everybody feels comfortable and is understanding of how this meeting is going to go. If anyone from the IEP team has a question or concern, please let me know as soon as it pops up in your head, so we can address the situation as a team and have the opportunity to fully collaborate during this time of our meeting. We are going to jump right into some test results from Lanaya, her MAP scores. So we're going to start with her math MAP scores. In fall 2021, she scored 157 in the 12th percentile. In winter of 2021, she scored a 173 in the 24th percentile. And spring 2022, she scored a 179 in the 25th percentile. Fall 2022, she scored a 183 in the 40th percentile. So we can see that we made a gradual progression in those scores. Her next set of MAP scores are the language arts and reading MAP scores. In fall 2021, she scored a 158 in the 22nd percentile. Winter 2021, she scored 169 in the 25th percentile. Spring 2022, she scored a 148 in the 1st percentile. And fall 2022, she scored a 156 in the 5th percentile. So in reading and language arts, we see a decline in her MAP scores. Now we are going to go over some present levels that we see with Lanaya. In math, her assessment scores, the ones that are taken in the classroom, in her gen ed classroom, for her first assessment, number 3939, she scored a 63%. Her second, Unit 1, Lesson 3, the first assessment was Unit 1, Lesson 2. Second assessment, Unit 1, Lesson 3. Number 3943, she scored a 67%. The first CFA, number 3980, she scored 88%. Her Unit 2, Lesson 5 assessment, number 3956, she scored a 94%. And her last CFA that was recorded, number 3953, she scored a 56%. So we see that her math present level assessment scores are a little bit inconsistent overall. Lanaya receives math instruction in her general education setting in both large and small groups. She uses strategies to add numbers up to 1,000, but may need cues to regroup. She also uses strategies to subtract numbers up to 1,000. However, she continues to need multiple cues when regrouping across zeros. Lanaya is beginning to use strategies to find the products when multiplying whole numbers and to write related division facts. With teacher support, Lanaya can solve single-step applied math problems. She is unable to solve two-step applied math problems without significant teacher assistance. Lanaya is inconsistent when applying math concepts to solving applied math problems. For reading present levels, Lanaya is currently and consistently reading at a level B, with her scores ranging from 64% to a 90% accuracy and 90% to 100% comprehension. She recognizes 26 uppercase letters and 25 lowercase letters. She correctly produces 26 sounds, including sh, f, and Lanaya currently does not correctly produce the letter sounds for b, d, z, and ch. She is able to correctly read 45 out of 75 first grade level sight words. Of the 37 attendance days in first quarter, Lanaya did miss 10 days. This equates to missing approximately 30% of her ELA sessions for the first quarter, which has had an adverse impact on her progress in ELA. So when looking at these scores, we can see that possibly the absences have had a negative effect on her scoring recently. For her physical adversities, she did pass both her vision and hearing tests on September 16th, 2022. For oral language and communication, Lanaya qualifies as an English language learner. She receives EL support once a week during writing interventions. For her social emotional behavior, Lanaya is a student that gets excited to talk about her interests with her social worker and her group mates. She also appears to look forward to her social work group and working with her group mates, as demonstrated by her social worker and her peers for this information. Lanaya was able to meet her goal as demonstrated by meeting all her objectives towards this goal. In return to school in the 2022-2023 school year, Lanaya was able to meet this goal in 7 out of 8 charted instances. She does need adult and peer prompting to find the coping strategies most of the time, but when prompted, she will identify strategy by strategy. For her adaptive section, based on Lanaya's current educational needs, she will require significant academic supports in reading fluency, reading comprehension, and written expression. Sensory and executive functioning supports related to her medical diagnosis of ADHD, social work supports based on diagnosis of ADHD, anxiety, and depression, and LBS or learning behavior specialist supports to stay focused and engaged in instruction. The support Lanaya will receive significantly exceeds the support provided to her general education third grade peers. Now we will go over our goals for Lanaya for this upcoming year. Her first goal is regarding her ELA reading comprehension. By November 2023, when read a level G text, Lanaya will answer comprehension questions with 80% accuracy in 4 out of 5 trials, with no more than one verbal or visual prompt. Her second goal is ELA reading fluency. By November 2023, when given a level E text, Lanaya will read the text with 80% accuracy in 4 to 5 trials, and no more than one verbal and visual prompt. Our third goal is our social emotional goal for Lanaya. By November 2023, when presented with a problem, redirection, peer issue, staff issue, classroom issue, directive, change of routine, etc., in the school setting, Lanaya will accurately determine the size of the problem, big, little, or medium, and then finding 2 or more solutions with 2 or less adult or peer prompts. Our fourth goal is executive functioning. By November 2023, Lanaya will use a written planner to keep track of assignments 4 days per week with no more than one verbal prompt in 4 out of 4 trials. Now we are going to move on to the services that are being provided for Lanaya as we speak and as we go forward. For special education services, she has outside of the general education classroom reading interventions and supports in the instructional special education classroom space. This will start 11/16/2022. She will do this weekly of 450 minutes that need to be met by the special education teacher. This will go all the way until July 5th, 2024. Special education supports that are being met inside the general education classroom are math interventions and supports. This will be done by the special education interventionist. This will start 11/16/2022. It will be weekly by meeting 450 minutes, and it will end July 5th, 2024. For her relevant related services outside the general education classroom, she will have social work. This will take place in the SEL classroom. This will start on 11/16/2022 as well, and it will happen quarterly. The social worker is expected to meet 160 minutes of this time with Lanaya, and this will end on July 5th, 2024. The other related services that Lanaya is going to be involved with is EL interventions, so English language interventions. This will be held in small groups in the English language learner classroom space. This will start 11/16/2022. It will happen weekly with about 160 to 300 minutes. This will be done by the EL specialist, and it will end on July 5th, 2024. For her supplementary aids and supports, Lanaya will have access to visual cues in all locations starting 11/16/2022 on a weekly basis, provided by the educational team. This will end July 5th, 2024. She will also have access to a number line or number grid in her general education classroom starting 11/16/2022 on a weekly basis, provided by the general education teacher or the special education interventionist. This will end on July 5th, 2024. She will also be provided a graphic organizer. This will be in all locations starting 11/16/2022 on a weekly basis by the educational team and end on July 5th, 2024. Lanaya does meet the criteria for least restricted environment. She requires specialized supports to address her academic, social, emotional, and language needs. So the student will participate in non-academic activities with non-disabled peers and have the same opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities as non-disabled peers. The potential harmful effects of this placement is that Lanaya will participate in the general education curriculum but will not receive specialized instruction in deficit areas. She will receive small group instruction in identified areas as support and modification in other areas of the general education curriculum, but will not participate in the full extent in the general education program. Lanaya will receive support and modification in the general education curriculum, but will miss some general education activities while receiving supportive instruction 80% of the time. She does qualify for ESY. This is based on Lanaya's current educational needs. She requires significant academic support in reading fluency, reading comprehension, and written expression, sensory and executive functioning supports related to her medical diagnosis of ADHD, social work supports based on diagnosis of ADHD, anxiety, depression, and learning behavioral specialist or special education teacher supports to stay focused and engaged in instruction. The procedural safeguards, these were sent to the parents on September 13th, 2022, as well as November 1st, 2022. It highlights specific subjects within the procedural safeguards. We are going to go through a list of them due to it being 22 pages long. I am not going to read the whole thing. So let me give you a list of what the procedural safeguards give more explanation and expectation on in this document. It covers prior written notice, parental consent, absence of parental consent, revocation of consent, parent participation in meetings, evaluation procedures, requirements for unilateral placement by parents of children in private schools, discipline of students with disabilities, complaint resolution, mediation, due process hearing, educational surrogate parents, access to educational records, and transfer of parental rights. These were sent twice to the parents so that they have plenty to go over. If they have any questions, they know that they can reach out to me. This is the prior written notice or the invite that we gave to the parents for this meeting. This was sent out 5 days prior as well as 2 months ago. In order to discuss the educational needs of your child, you are invited to attend an IEP conference meeting to be held on 11/15/2022, Tuesday at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Cotton Creek Elementary School. No later than 3 school days prior to the scheduled meeting, the school district must provide you copies of all written material that will be considered by the IEP team at the meeting so that you may participate in the meeting as a fully informed team member. If you have not already been contacted by the school district to indicate your preferred method of delivery, please contact the individual indicated below. In addition, you have the right to review and or copy your child's school student records prior to any special education eligibility or IEP meeting. You are a participant on the team which will meet to address the purpose of as indicated in the next section. You have the right to bring other individuals who have knowledge or special expertise regarding your child. If you plan to bring other individuals, please notify Savannah Mitchell at smitchell@d118.org prior to the meeting so arrangements and accommodations can be made. You have the right to request that the school district provide an interpreter for the meeting. You have the right to request that the interpreter serve no other role in the IEP other than as an interpreter, and the school district should make reasonable efforts to fulfill this request. If you believe that the school district unreasonably denied your request for an interpreter, you have all rights under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and Article 14 of the School Code. These rights include a due process hearing, state complaint, mediation, ISB monitoring, and by filing a complaint with the Office for Civil Rights. You have the right to written translations of vital IEP documents. You may contact Sylvia Caraco, District Interpreter, at her phone number that is listed below for any questions or complaints about interpretation services. You can request an interpreter or translated documents by contacting the individual indicated below, Roselia Korkanek, Administrative Assistant, at her phone number listed below. If these meeting arrangements are not agreeable and or if you wish to review and or copy your child's school student record, please contact the individual indicated below, which is me, Savannah Mitchell, the case manager at smitchell@d118.org. The purpose of this conference is for an IEP review and revision. The invited individuals and or their titles are listed below. As I went over, everybody that is here today, the District Special Education Liaison Representative, General Education Teacher, Special Education Teacher and Interventionist, EL Specialist, Parents, and Social Worker. The IEP team will discuss whether your child requires assistive technology to receive a free, appropriate public education. The Illinois Board of Education Assistive Technology program can be reached by calling a toll-free number that is listed and given to the parents, or by visiting their website. You and your child have protection under the procedural safeguards of special education regulations. The school district must provide you a copy of explanation of procedural safeguards once a year. Please contact the district if you need a copy of these safeguards. The parents have 2 copies of these safeguards already, so we should be good. If any questions, you can contact Dr. Julia Nader, Assistant Superintendent of Special Services, and I provided their phone number. I want to make sure that it is clear that we keep communication as open as possible and in whatever form that the parent or team members prefer. Any specialists or outside providers that need to be included in our IEP team meetings and or discussion, that also can be discussed with the parents. When addressing concerns, I will restate the question or concern by saying just to make sure I understand, and then restate what their concern was so that we are all fully on the same page and that we do not misinterpret each other. Especially with this family, there is English and Spanish language between the home and school. Depending on any concern or need of anyone on the team, especially parents, I will be deferring to a team member with the most knowledge or data. This means that if Lanaya's parents have special concerns about a social work issue, I myself, the special education teacher, I'm not going to address. I'm going to give Brian Peterson the floor so that he can share his data and his opinion on whatever concern or problem. If a concern or problem cannot be mitigated or resolved during an IEP meeting during the hour, then we will address another time to have a meeting with the entire IEP team to brainstorm and figure out how we can resolve any issue that has arisen during an IEP meeting or outside of the IEP meeting. Thank you for joining us for this IEP meeting for Lanaya Garcia. I hope if anybody has any questions or concerns, they come to me or anyone else on the IEP team. Remember, this is a safe space and we can communicate with each other as naturally and responsibly as possible. Thank you, guys.